Chair, we're now live.
Warm welcome to everybody attending or viewing the live Council YouTube, the Planning Committee today on Hillingdon, London. My name's Councillor Higgins and I'm the Chairman of this committee. Details of business are to be considered today are on the agenda. You will have copies of that and they're also on the live broadcast at the bottom. For those in the room present intending to speak, please note that you are filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible online if the microphone is switched on. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm goes out, please follow officers out of the building. If you have mobile or tablet devices, please put them on silent or turn them off. Councillors on the committee will be using and officers will be using computers and I can assure you that none of them are playing Candy Crush. So we go to attendees before we move on to the agenda. So I'd like to introduce officers present. Councillors first. Councillor Adam Bedlam, Vice Chairman, welcome. Councillor Chubidar, welcome. Councillor Garlick, sorry, I always get it wrong. Councillor Nelson West, welcome, and Councillor Singh, welcome. Officers present are Kate Cosby, Area Planning Service Manager, to the side of me, Ed Norton, Area Planning Service Manager. Sorry, I should have said you're North and he's Central South. Hayden Richardson, he's right at the back there in the subs bench, Deputy Team Leader. Chris Brady is present on the table here. Michael, have I got it wrong around? I've got it wrong around. Chris is on the bench and Michael is here. Fine, Michael Bringshaw is here, and Anna Griffiths, Highway Officer, welcome. And Jimmy Walsh, our Legal Advisor, and the most important person, Liz Penny, who's the head, he's not head of Democratic Service, but she's my Democratic Service Officer, and make sure that I'm actually reading any of this incorrectly or correctly. We'll go straight on to the minutes of the agenda, which are first, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Roy Chamdow, also from Councillor Darren Davis with Councillor Chubidar substituting, and from Councillor Mand with Councillor Nelson West substituting.
Welcome. Thank you, substitutes, for stepping in. Much appreciated. Any declarations of interest matters before us? Yes, two. Councillor West?
Yes, I've got a non-pecuniary interest in items agenda 7 and 8, and I'll step out of the room.
Thank you very much. Microphone.
So it's declaring non-pecuniary interest from item 10.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we've done that. There's no matters notified in advance or urgent, and I can confirm that all business marked in Part 1 is considered. There's no items in Part 2. Right, I think I've done everything that is required of me so far. So we will. Can we do the minutes first? Because that's not down here. Can we agree the minutes? Yeah, agreed. Yeah, thank you very much. That's not on here. All right, see, I jumped it. There you go. All right, so we go to first application with petition, which is item 6, which is 9 Beacon Close, Uxbridge. Off you go.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, I'd quickly like to highlight there is an addendum on this item with some minor clarifications. So item 6 relates to number 19 Beacon Close, which comprises a bungalow and detached garage located at the southern end of the cul-de-sac. Residential properties are located on all sides of the site, including Beacon Close properties to the north and west, and Harefield Road properties to the east and south. Here is the constraints plan. The site itself is not constrained by a designation, but Greenbelt land is designated to the west alongside the Fraser Farm Nature Conservation Site. This is a topographical survey of the site as it exists, showing the location of the bungalow and garage within the site and proximity to neighbouring development. These are the existing plans with the floor plan at the top and the elevation shown below. Here is a satellite image showing the site as it exists. And here are some photos of the site. So this is facing towards the bungalow as viewed from Beacon Close. This is the garage which sits to the east of the bungalow. It's the rear of the property as viewed from the garden. and to the right there is the neighbouring property at number 24 Beacon Close, sited to the west. And this is a view looking up Beacon Close, giving you an impression of the general street scene. So a previous application for 4 terrace dwellings was reported to the Planning Committee in January 2023 and refused for a total of 8 reasons. Reasons included the overdevelopment of the site, harm to visual amenities, accessibility of units, loss of a tree, potential harm to ecology, under provision of cyclable parking, highway safety impact resulting from a failure to restrict the issuing of parking permits by a Section 106 legal agreement. So the current application is very similar and seeks permission for the erection of 4 terrace dwellings, incorporating landscaping, parking, waste and cycle stores, following the demolition of the existing dwelling. This is the proposed site plan, showing the location of the development next to number 24 Beacon Close and 213C Harefield Road. This shows the proposed ground and first floors at the top, and the proposed elevations below. The development would be staggered, with 2 central dwellings sitting forward of the dwellings to the side. So this shows how the development would sit within the street scene. Evidently it would fill the plot with 2-storey built form, sitting above the height of the neighbouring bungalow at number 24 Beacon Close. And this is the proposed landscape plan, showing the arrangement of on-site car parking to the front, some front garden space and storage, and private amenity space to the rear. Right, so the current revised application is very similar in form, design and layout to the previously refused scheme. Refusal reasons relating to ecology, accessibility and cycle parking have been overcome. The unprotected tree, which formed part of the previous refusal reason, has now been removed, and this does not form part of the current recommendation. Refusal reasons relating to the overdevelopment of the site and the harm to the character and appearance of the area are proposed, alongside a reason for refusal based on the failure to agree a Section 106 legal agreement to secure highways works and prohibit the issuing of parking permits to prospective residents. For the reasons set out in the report, the application is recommended for refusal. I pass back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, this item is a petition item. So we have a written representation from Mrs. Rouse. I believe you're in the audience as well. Welcome. And I'll let Liz do your presentation now for you. Okay?
Thank you, Chair. So we have received representation from Mrs. Rue, and I'll read it out now. Members of the Hillingdon Planning Committee, my name is Shirley Rue. I live at 18 Beacon Close, Uxbridge, and I am one of the signatories to the petition which has been submitted in opposition to the above planning application. Members of the committee will be aware that this is the second planning application for this proposed development, the first having been considered by the Borough Planning Committee and refused with a compelling 8 reasons for refusal in November 2022. A second planning application, that under consideration this evening, was submitted in April 2023, and it is absolutely clear that even after the submission of a number of minor cosmetic changes, there has been no change of substance from the original application. Indeed, the design and access statement submitted by the applicant generally seeks to challenge the judgment exercised by officers rather than by addressing them with proposed changes. Please consider and take account of the views of the petitioners in respect to this application. The application seeks to replace the existing detached single-storey bungalow at 19 Beacon Close with 4 terraced houses, each comprising 2 storeys and containing 3 bedrooms, and hence being capable of accommodating 5 occupants. We are most grateful to the planning officers for their report, which already highlights 4 valid reasons for refusal, and in this context we would particularly like to endorse their following observations. 1. The design of the proposed new buildings is completely inconsistent with the street scene. Beacon Close is a quiet cul-de-sac comprising large family homes. 2. The proposals represent a gross overdevelopment of the site. 3. The proposals seek to create an excessively large hard standing area to the front of the boundary of the site in an attempt to create parking and bin storage areas. This is inconsistent with the character of neighbouring properties and the street scene in general. We would also like to add further potential reasons for refusal. 1. Beacon Close is a quiet cul-de-sac. The introduction of this proposed development has the potential to add between 8 and 10 additional cars which will travel up and down the road. As indicated in the officer's report, the PTAR rating of the site is extremely low, and therefore the absence of viable public transport facilities will maximise residents' reliance upon and use of private vehicles, thus causing increased vehicle traffic in the road with related increased safety and nuisance implications. 2. This proposed development will also therefore cause increased demand for parking, which will be in direct conflict with the existing U8 parking management scheme, particularly if off-street is not included. 3. If these proposals, or any derivation of them, were to be accepted, then the demolition and construction phases of the project would cause considerable noise, disruption and traffic congestion to neighbouring residents. Furthermore, 19 Beacon Close is situated at the end of the cul-de-sac, and hence the road area immediately outside the property is used by large vehicles, such as refuse collection lorries, as a turning circle. The presence of construction plant and vehicles will obstruct this use. Members of the committee, Beacon Close is a quiet residential street on the very edge of Uxbridge. Its residents have invested in the homes in this street and have a right to expect that their way of life should not be disrupted and disturbed by a scheme which is designed with the sole objective of generating the largest financial return possible. I ask you to therefore consider favourably our additional reasons for refusal of this application and to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That's lovely. We have the applicant, Mr. Roda. Would you like to come to the table, please? Mr. Roda, you'll have 5 minutes. We've got a traffic light scheme. Green for 4, amber's 1, when it's red, I will stop you. Okay? So, but hopefully you've practiced very well and it will be under the 5 minutes. So, after, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Chairman and members. By way of introduction, my name is Akash Roda and I am the applicant for the proposed development. This application follows a recently refused scheme for a similar development at the site, where we have been able to overcome a number of concerns which are now common ground, including tree matters, internal layouts, ecology and cycle provision. Officers' concerns relate to the impact of the proposed character of the street scene and highway objection, for which I will offer more insight into how the proposals do not conflict with development plan policies. The first suggested reason for refusal sets out that the proposed development, by reason of the terrace form, would fail to harmonise with the existing local context and pattern of development in Beacon Close. Chairman and members, simply put, these comments are quite misleading and do not accurately reflect the prevailing pattern of the development. As you enter Beacon Close from Harefield Road, there are a group of terraced dwellings, there's 4 in a row. There's semi-detached properties which form part of the collective grouping of architectural types. Beacon Close, towards its southern part, is characterised by the detached dwellings along the eastern and southern side, with gable roofs and traditional material choices. The end of Beacon Close within the application site is viewed are another 2 detached properties, so members will note that the officer's summary is inconsistent with prevailing character of the street scene, where terraced properties and detached dwellings are a common theme. The proposed dwellings sit within the deepest point corner of the road and have been designed to mirror the key characteristics of other dwellings in the road. These include gable roofs, tile-hung features, and open frontages with soft planting and vegetation. It is also worth me highlighting that under the assessment of application of 2F Beacon Close for the erection of an end of terrace dwelling, which was allowed by members, the planning officer stated within the committee report that properties within Beacon Close are predominantly 2-storey in height and are terraced or semi-detached. Most dwellings are set back from the road, allowing for off-road parking and front gardens. Both sites are located within the same road and the same setting, yet officers have reacted on 2 different conclusions as to the prevailing character of the road. The proposed dwellings would fit well within the wider street scene and respond to key characteristics of the road and other dwellings in this regard and are appropriate. The second suggested reason for refusal references the forward projection and build line failing to harmonise within the character and architectural composition of surrounding properties. Mindful that the property has only one immediate neighbour to the west, number 24, it is reasonable to conclude that the site of this building is the reference point. An amended plan was submitted to officers under application reference PA01, which demonstrated that the proposed dwellings would be in line and not further forward against the line of number 24, neighbouring property. In addition, the dwellings would be set back further than the development of semi-detached dwellings number 213B and C to the east. To offer further clarity, the envelope and building sits further forward than number 24 and only 1 metre deeper than number 24. As such, the build line has not been breached or broken as suggested, and the design of the dwellings would respect the pattern development within this corner of Beacon Close. With relation to the third reason for refusal, the LPA have raised concerns relating to the absence of a legal agreement. I can confirm to members that a legal agreement was prepared and submitted to the council under the current application. This was uploaded within the planning portal and document agreed securing highways contributions towards which the applicant would make financial contributions. The highways comments are largely favourable, and those matters were not agreed were recommended by subject to planning conditions. I have no resistance to the use of the conditions or the council seeking to secure contributions via unilateral undertakings, and my willingness to prepare such document will be afforded greater weighting by members. As such, I trust members will consider this. I largely think the site is very misunderstood in the sense that it's 25 metres wide, and when people look at it, you just look at the bungalow itself. I mean, there's a lot raised around the character and appearance of this property, but I've seen similar roads such as Harville Road, which was also a very similar road, not as quiet as I'd agree, but it only had detached properties going back to 2020. Since then, there's been an application for 7 flats and 4 semi-detached houses on Harville Road. So it's just to say that character does evolve over time. It shouldn't be always set in stone that just because there's only detached houses on that certain part.
Thank you. Any questions from... no, hang on a minute. Well, we'll sit down for a bit. Any questions from the councillors? No? You can go. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Michael, do we have the photo of 19 and 24 side by side? I just don't get how putting 4 terraced houses on one plot when there's a bungalow next door, it cannot be seen as being completely out of character with the area. It's more of a statement, I suppose, rather than a question.
I appreciate that, but the bungalows in themselves, though, you could say they're out of character. They're the only 2 on the whole road, and the angle of the way in which this photo is taken cuts off to the left, where there's a pair of semi-detached houses. They're not you can't see them, but they're quite high up. This is going into the road. But if you face where you're seeing the bungalow now, on that left-hand side, there's quite high, and it's quite significantly higher, and the plot goes all the way wide. You might be able to see it from that rear view. Yeah, can you see that towards the right-hand side? There's a pair of semi-detached houses, and the 4 would sit quite nicely up to that bungalow, and they're literally the only 2 bungalows on the road. And there's also a set of 4 terraced houses very similar to what I'm proposing right at the start of Beacon Close.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Can you turn the microphone off for me, please? Thank you. Thanks very much. Councillor Tubadar, you indicated first.
Yeah, thank you. But basically, my comments on this one is, this has been before us before. And as I can see from the officer's report, it is very similar to the original application. And therefore, I really can't see how we could actually approve this one. Is overdevelopment of the site, is harm to the character of the area. It doesn't. It harms the street scene. It doesn't blend with the other properties next to it. Overall, I really think we should go with the officer's recommendation for refusal, and I would like to propose that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chuba. Councillor Bennett?
Thank you, Chair. There was a discrepancy around the section 106, so
Yeah.
I wondered if officers could just clarify that based on the
do you want to say
applicant's
that?
comments.
Yes, so as part of the application, a section 106 had been, well, a drafted one from the applicant had been submitted with the application, but given that we weren't minded to recommend approval, it hasn't progressed to be completed. So I guess the reason for refusal is in the absence of a completed legal agreement. But on page 33 there is a note that if it had been minded to approve, or in the event of an appeal, we would work with the applicant to agree a legal agreement prior to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Chairman.
One of the other points I was going to make is how could we basically consider the petitioner's request for additional reasons for refusal, because there was a number of them in the petitioner's comments.
I'll let officers come back. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I think this property is out of character. If you look around the other side, both sides, like Mr. Bennett, he mentioned all bungalows, but I honestly recommend the officer's recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, are you seconding that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Bennett, the officer's going to answer the question for Councillor Gibbon, and I'll come back to you straight away.
Okay, so one of the first suggestions for additional reason was to do with increased traffic and the impacts it would have on safety in the cul-de-sac. So the Highways Officer has assessed the proposals. There would be an uplift of 3 additional vehicles, and it was determined that essentially that the uplift in 3 homes wouldn't result in a significant increase in traffic generation that would result in harm that would form a reason for refusal. Another issue raised was that the site is subject to a parking management scheme, and that we would need to secure effectively we'd need to secure a section 106 to prevent people from parking on the street. So that does form one of the reasons. I think that's reason number 4. So in the absence of that legal agreement, we've considered that. And the other matters raised was to do with construction impacts with obstructing refuse vehicles during the construction period. So construction period would be temporary if it was granted planning permission. So it would be a temporary matter that can be dealt with effectively. And in terms of construction impacts from noise disturbance, that was also raised. That's also dealt with under separate environmental legislation.
Okay. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. I think if we were looking at the whole plot of land of both bungalows, maybe my thoughts on it might be a little bit different, but the fact is there is going to be a bungalow next door to 4 houses as proposed. I just wanted, for those that are viewing, because I was on the committee that approved the other application that was referred to by the applicant, it's apples and pears. It was a completely different scheme at the opposite end of the road, not on the scale of this. And I think Harville Road, again, you can't compare.
Okay. Totally agree. As we are trained many times, we have to take the applications before us. I have proposed and seconded. Can I have a show of hands those who agree with officer's recommendation for refusal and with the additional changes to the addendum? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. If you would like to leave, please do, but just do it quietly so we can carry on doing our business. Thank you for attending. It's our pleasure. Okay, 7 and 8. I think, Councillor West, you would like to retreat. Okay, right. Let's go. 7-8, Michael, you're going to do this one as well?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
We're going to take two applications together, yeah?
Yes,
so
please.
We'll do one presentation and then we can we'll vote on each of them individually, yeah? Okay, lovely.
Yep, so before I start, I'd just quickly like to highlight there is an addendum on these items, more so to do with the full application, and it contains some minor changes to the conditions. So both items 7 and 8 relate to Hayes Park, which comprises a landscaped parkland setting, including Hayes Park North, Central and South. Hayes Park Central and South form the focus of these applications and are both Grade 2 star listed buildings. Hayes Park Central has been vacant since 2020, and Hayes Park South has been vacant since 2017. So the site forms part of the Greenbelt, and alongside Hayes Park Central and South, which are Grade 2 star listed buildings, there are also some locally listed buildings to the west. The development would not immediately adjoin any neighbouring, any residential properties, but there is an extant consent granted at appeal to convert Hayes Park North to residential units. So here is a satellite image of the site as it currently exists. And here are some photos. This is a view from the Park Lane access to the east, looking west. This is a closer view with Hayes Park South to the left, Hayes Park Central in the middle, and Hayes Park North to the right. Again, this is a closer view, Hayes Park South to the left and Hayes Park Central to the right. That's Hayes Park North, straight ahead. This is the existing car park, which is to the west of those buildings, and would serve the development. And just an image there of the courtyard, which is currently located within Hayes Park South, and it would be reinstated with a reflective pool. Yes, so both items 7 and 8 are being presented jointly, as both applications relate to the same scheme. Item 7 relates to the full planning application for the change of use of buildings to residential, alongside works to the building and landscaping. Item 8 relates to the listed building consent application required for internal and external works to the listed building. So this is the proposed landscape plan showing the provision of amenity space within and surrounding each building. Communal amenity space is proposed throughout and includes an exercise trim trail, a garden square, and a play space. So this is the Hayes Park Central Basement Plan, which includes some plants which should support the development. And this is the ground floor of Hayes Park Central, showing a new courtyard space with flats to be arranged around the outside of it. Similarly, this is the first floor of that same building, and the second floor of Hayes Park Central. And this is the roof, showing the provision of PV panels and some plants as well to serve the development. So the elevations, this is the north elevation of Hayes Park Central, east elevation, south elevation, and the west elevation. So worth noting that there are balustrades to be provided on some of the units, and that would facilitate private balcony spaces for the units. Moving on to Hayes Park South, starting at the ground floor level. This is where the reflective pool I mentioned earlier will be reinstated in the courtyard area, with residential units again arranged around that central space. This is the first floor, the second floor, and the roof plan, again with PV panels and plant proposed. Moving to the elevations again, the north elevation, east elevation, south elevation and west elevation, the same balustrades are proposed for private balcony spaces. Right, so to summarise, the proposal would change the use of two currently vacant Grade 2 star listed buildings to residential. The offices are not protected in policy terms and their loss is accepted. The reuse of brownfield land is supported, and whilst development would result in some harm to the listed buildings, the harm would be outweighed by the public benefits, which includes the reuse of the listed buildings, securing their long-term future, and the heritage gains supported by the Conservation Team and Historic England. The scheme has been viability tested by the Council and GLA, and it is concluded that the scheme generates a deficit, but is within the range of deliverability when accounting for growth within the market. Despite this, the developer has made a without prejudice 10% shared ownership affordable housing offer. This offer is the maximum viable affordable housing provision possible and complies with planning policy. For the reasons outlined within the committee reports, these applications are recommended for approval, subject to planning conditions and a Section 106 legal agreement. I pass back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Okay. Can we just, before we start, Chris, can we just explain what is grade 2 listed and what isn't on the site, so we can...
Yes, that's not a problem. Let me get the site plan. So the outlined in red there, you've got Hayes Park Central in the middle and Hayes Park South at the bottom. Hayes Park North is to the top of that image there, and that is not grade 2 star listed. Only the buildings within the red line shown there are of that status, and it's a statutory listing, which basically means they're a very high heritage value.
Brilliant. Okay. Who wants to take me away? Adam? Councillor Bennett, sorry.
Thank you,
A bit
Henry.
more official. Sorry.
I was pleased you clarified that, because I was surprised when I was looking through the images beforehand that any of it was listed, but that's probably just my poor judgment. I really like this because, you know, hybrid working, we've probably got far too many offices around the country and we don't have enough homes, and this is a great opportunity for a brownfield site to create a lot of homes in a building that has sat empty for, 4 to 7 years. I did have a question around the land around it. So just thinking, obviously, there's a lot of greenery between there and kind of the residential development. Is that council land? Is that potentially I mean, it's out of scope of this application and what we're considering, but I'm just conscious you don't want this to be a big residential sprawl and this kind of spread out in the parklands around.
Yeah. Chris?
That land is privately owned. It doesn't form part of the application, so we cannot. It's not to be considered today, so I don't think we can. There wouldn't be any way of restricting that. It wouldn't, it'd be for consideration under a separate application, I suppose.
Purely my nosiness.
Yeah, no. Michael, sorry I keep calling you Chris, so do forgive me. I had a migraine this morning and it hasn't really gone. But is that protected though? I mean, what councillors are sort of asking here is that if it was to come back, we appreciate it's not on this application, that the beauty of moving in there, as far as I can see, is that you have all this wonderful green space around you. So it's like living in one of those mansions that's been converted and you can use the grounds. So we just want to make sure that area that is green is not brownfield, that is actually green chain or green belt.
So yes, it forms part of the green belt. It's also private open space, which both of those considerations are protected by planning policy. So as part of
yeah, that's great, Michael. So really, if they wanted to change anything, it has to come back to committee anyway. Yeah. Although apparently in the papers we're the most NIMBY planning committee in the country, but I don't believe that. Okay. Are there any more questions, Councillor Bennett? No. So you're proposing, or?
I am happy to recommend that we go with officer's recommendation of
Okay,
approval.
so that's been proposed. Councillor Jubilar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to second the proposal. It's a good idea, bringing some proper use of the place for housing rather than the property is staying empty, so it's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Brilliant. Any other questions? Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted some clarification, because I know that there was extensive consultation with the applicant and the officers, and just wanted to know if they could insist on a larger proportion of family units, 3 or 4 bedrooms, because there's just 1 4-bedroom.
Yeah. Michael?
Thank you, Chair. So this site is heavily constrained by its grade 2 star listed status. Also the Greenbelt designation is another heavy constraint on the site. and underpinning that all is the viability consideration. So this scheme, as we've considered it, is already generating deficit, and any more family housing would compromise that viability, and the scheme might not come forward, essentially. So on balance, we've concluded that the level of family units proposed, which is, from memory, 15% or 18 units, is sufficient and acceptable in this case.
Win some, lose some. Usually, all affordable. There you go. This one, we got a bit of it, but it's great. That's brilliant. Okay, so I'm proposing seconded, and we've got, obviously, there's changes in the amendment. All councillors, please be aware of that. Can we have a show of hands, those in favour of this application? Yeah, I know, yeah. I'm going to take the same people again for the next one, so that's unanimous. And again, yeah, for the second one? Yeah, great. So that's 7 and 8 done. Thank you very much. Councillor Gaelic, you said in item 10, so do you mean 9 and 10? They're both Rosedale College. Yeah. So, would you...
She just said it was in her ward. She didn't say she had a...
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. It's small. You could fit on the end there. Next to Chris, not Michael. Right. We're all present. That's great. Okay, so we can't do 9 and 10 together because one is a temporary use and one's a thing. So we're going to do number 9 first. So over to you, Hayden.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. Just before starting, I'd like to say that there's an addendum on this item. Minor changes have been made to 2 of the conditions. Okay, so item 9 relates to Rosedale College, Wood End Green Road. The development seeks planning permission for the redevelopment of Rosedale College to provide improved teaching and sports facilities. The proposed works include demolition and renovation of existing buildings, the erection of 2 new buildings, a new plant room, social and dining canopies for students, a new multi-use games area to replace the existing games area, sports field, football pitches, a new parking area and associated infrastructure. The pupil numbers at the school are to remain the same. A detailed description of the application is in the committee report. Here we have the location plan from the site. As you can see, the site is on the south side of Wood End Green Road. It's in a dense residential area. Here is a constraints plan for the site. As you can see, there are no notable constraints, although the conservation area is to the east of the site. Here we have a demolition plan showing buildings to be demolished at the site. In the northwest corner, we have building EFAE. This building is a temporary teaching block which should have been removed in 2014 as part of another permission, but the building hasn't been removed. This development would ensure that the building is removed from the site and that the land is replaced with sports pitches. To the other end of the site, we have building EFAB. This is a 1960s 3-storey teaching block. This building is also to be removed and replaced with a modern building. Here is an elevation plan of building EFAB. This is the old block which is in need of replacement as it's at the end of its life cycle and it will be demolished. Here is building EFAE, which is the temporary block which should have been demolished and still exists in the site, but as mentioned previously will be demolished as part of the proposal. Next we have a proposed block plan for the development site. As you can see, a new teaching block would be in the middle of the site where the red dot is, and another one would be on the eastern end of the site. Buildings EFAC, which is an existing building, is going to be refurbished, and building EFAD is also going to be refurbished. In the south east of the site we have the new energy centre which will host plant equipment and will also have an air source heat pump. Here's a proposed ground floor plan for building NTB1. The plan shows that there'd be a new studio within the new teaching block, as well as offices, staff rooms, toilets, laboratory facilities and other teaching space. The first floor plan would have similar provisions to the ground floor, as would the second floor plan of the building. The roof of the building would host soft landscaping and PV panels, improving its efficiency and the ecological value of the site. Here are some elevation plans of the building. The building would be finished in brick and cladding like existing buildings at the site. It would be 3 stories in height, building NTB1. The 3-story building would be in the middle of the site, so its visual impact would be limited as it would be really far away from any surrounding road. Here is another elevation of the building. Building NTB2, which is going to be at the eastern end of the site, would have new teaching facilities including a dining hall, a drama studio, a new library, classrooms for students, as well as changing rooms and other teaching space. The first floor of the building would provide similar provisions. Here is a roof plan of the building. Again, like building NTB1, it would have soft landscaping and solar panels, improving the efficiency of the building and also the ecological value of the site. The building would be finished in similar materials to NTB1, as well as building EFAC, which is already at the site. It would be finished in brick and cladding. This building would be 2 stories in height, so would be acceptable in terms of the scale of development on the site, as there are existing 3-story buildings at the site. Here is an existing plan for building EFAC. This building exists at the site at the moment and is to be refurbished. There's the roof plan for the building. The refurbishment works involve minor internal changes so that the building can be better used by students. The roof would again host soft landscaping and PV panels. In terms of its elevations, this is the building as it stands at the site at the moment. I will show you some photos later on. And that is the proposed building. As you can see, it's been recladded and windows have been replaced, improving the energy efficiency of the building. Here is building EFAE. This is the temporary building which exists in the northwest of the site. This building has only got minor internal alterations proposed, which will help in it being used once building EFAB has been decanted. This is building EFAD, which exists on the site. Minor refurbishment works are proposed to this building, including the removal of flues, louvers and vents. This is the proposed energy centre, which will be in the southeast of the site. Within the energy centre would be most of the site's plant equipment and an air source heat pump. A condition has been placed on the application to ensure that no adverse noise impacts are created for residents. It's also noted that the nearest residents on Leven Way are about 37 metres away in terms of their rear elevation from the air source heat pump, so it's a considerable distance and they shouldn't be impacted adversely in terms of noise from the energy centre. Here's an existing plan showing the site elevations as they stand, also shows the scale of the development. Here's a proposed plan. As you can see, the scale of the development is very similar, so it wouldn't have much of a visual impact when compared with what's already at the site. Here is a final site plan for the site. As you can see, buildings EFAD has been removed from the site and replaced with football pitches. Within the middle of the site we have building NTB1, which would be the 3-story building. To the east end of the site we've got building NTB2, which will be the 2-story building. EFAC is the building to be refurbished. EFAD is the other building to be refurbished. The Mugas in the middle of the site, there are 3 at the moment, and they would be replaced by a pair of Mugas here in the middle of the site and another Muga. The energy centre would be at the southeast of the site, and the existing parking area which exists on the eastern boundary would be extended slightly further. New landscaping would also be proposed around the boundaries of the site, and the new cricket lane would be next to the existing artificial pitch. Here is a bird's eye view plan of the site. This is the view of the site from its eastern entrance in the main road. This is the western entrance to the site from the main road. Here is building EFAB. As I said, this is the 1960s building which is to be demolished and replaced by a more contemporary building which will be more energy efficient. Here is building EFAC, which is to be refurbished. The new buildings would be of similar appearance and design in terms of materials, cladding, brickwork. Here is building EFAB and EFEC alongside the trees that are to be removed from the site. As you can see, the trees are of very little amenity value, and as mentioned in the report, there will be a lot more trees planted at the site, which is a benefit. Here is building EFAD within the middle of the site, which is to be refurbished. As mentioned, the louvers and the vents are going to be removed from the building and made good afterward. Here is the existing Muga, which is which provides 3 separate Mugas. This is going to be replaced by 3 Mugas, but they'll be split into 2 Mugas and 1. Here's the existing car parking area, which is to the eastern end of the site. This is going to be extended. This is where the position of the new pitches would be, and that's where the new cricket lane would be. In the far distance we have the building EFAE, which is that temporary building which is going to be removed and also replaced with pitches. Here we have building EFAE, which is to be repurposed during construction and, like I said, will be replaced by pitches eventually. And I just thought it would be good to finish with the proposed site plan, and I'll give you a conclusion of why we think the development's acceptable. The proposal would lead to some minor loss in teaching space. However, the loss is derived by removing building AFE, which should have been removed in 2014. The loss of the playing field and minor reduction in Muga space is regrettable. However, all losses would be outweighed by the benefits of the scheme, which include the following: the provision of 2 new contemporary, more efficient energy blocks, teaching blocks, provision of 450 metres squared spectator canopy, the provision of 273 metres squared all-weather 2-lane cricket practice facility, refurbished changing rooms, 2 new changing rooms with a hygiene room, a new activity studio, new sports pitches, 3 new Mugas which are split into a pair and a single Muga. The new layout allows for better pupil management across the year groups at the college. The removal of the unsafe and inefficient teaching blocks which are currently used by members of the public, and a new community use agreement for the site which will enable the wider community to use all of the site's existing and enhanced sports provisions. It is therefore recommended that planning permission be granted subject to the conditions and legal agreement particulars set out in the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. Very good report. Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. The photos, I think, on that are really compelling when you look at, having an environment that's conducive to learning and getting rid of buildings that are from the 1960s and the sort of porter cabin-esque temporary building that should have gone a decade ago. I did just have one question on condition 12, which I know is in the addendum. Are we being a bit too restrictive in saying that they can't have any more staff members? So it says that it can't exceed 131 FTE, which is currently what it is today. If I'm reading that right. If they wanted to employ a 132nd staff member, is that really, are we being too rigid?
We'll ask the question. It's a very good question. Hayden.
The condition is in place to ensure that any increase in student or staff numbers is safely controlled, because if we have more students at the site and more staffs at the site, then that could have impact on the roads in terms of parking provision, where people are parking, etc. So the cap is to ensure that the amount of parking at the site can cater for the amount of people and staff at the site as well as students.
Thank you, Hayden. In other words, if they want more, they just have to come back. That's fine. Councillor Gaelic, you wanted to...
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted some clarification about the new heating system. It mentions ground source heat pumps and air source. Will there be supplied heating for all the buildings or just the new buildings? Or is it the system which is horizontally laid or vertically?
That's over to you, Chris, I think.
Yeah, so essentially what you're asking there is for us to give you a detailed assessment of where the heat is going to be distributed, but that would be probably controlled by a detailed design at building regulation stage. I mean, essentially the energy centre, which is what it is, it's not just a plant room, has been put into place, one, for efficiency purposes, because it's quite clear that the existing buildings aren't heated and provided with energy very efficiently, but also because there is a reduction in teaching space, so that's been minimised by the provision of less plant room in each building, so therefore an energy centre would distribute heat and energy to whichever buildings that they can practically use that for. So at this particular stage, all we can say is that there is an energy facility, facility provided on site, which a lot of other schools within the local borough don't have, and that would be provided to at least the new buildings and those that are to be refurbished. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Can I may ask the question, how many trees we planting there around that building?
Yeah. Apologies for the delay. In addition to what's to be replaced, there are approximately 40 new trees to be planted, and that would be across the site. So.
And they're all my special trees, aren't they?
There is a provision in the condition for your special
Sorry,
trees.
for people listening, my special trees are ones that absorb as much of the horrible pollution in the area. Councillor West. Sorry, Councillor Singh, you wanted to come back. Go on. Go on.
I think this is actually a really good improvement. The youngsters, they need these facilities, so I'm quite happy
to propose it. Lovely, thank you. Councillor West.
Yes, looking at the number of staff, 131, 63 car parking spaces. I know you've got 24 cycles for the teachers, but is that enough? Is that enough?
Chris, you want to talk?
Effectively, it's a replacement of what's there existing at the moment. You'll notice in the heads of terms we're securing some money towards, financial contribution towards improving cyclist and pedestrian access to the site. You'll see from the photos of the front of the site it's not extremely sustainable at the moment, so there is a provision in there to assist with more sustainable methods of transport to the site. We've also securing a travel plan, so as with any application at the moment, there is a push towards less vehicle use and more pedestrian cyclist access.
Yeah, thank you. And can I look in it's just off the Uxbridge Road. How far are you going to walk if they catch you in public transport? Will buses be routed down there or not?
No. Go on, Chris.
Yeah, there is actually a bus route which does come off the Uxbridge Road. It comes to a roundabout which is very close to the site. So yeah, there is public transport access, although it is limited. I would say that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. I would agree with Councillor Singh's comments. There's over 1,000 pupils educated at this school, and these improvements will serve them and generations to come. So I'm happy to second Officer's recommendation.
Before we go to the vote, obviously, Chairman's privilege, I have a few questions myself. So, okay. On the soft landscaping, I'm very aware of this is a new trend now, and I think, and it's all very dependent on management of the site, because plants do get into cracks and they start ruining the roof and stuff like that. How are we verifying that that is not going to happen?
Sorry, Chairman, are you referring to the
green
soft
landscape on the roof?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it would be unreasonable for us to consider the requirement for a maintenance plan for green space. Yeah,
that'd be good. Okay. I've got three questions. The second one is the cladding, and I think the teachers in the audience. The cladding on the existing building that's not being touched is bubbling away and needs replacing. So I think they need to look at that. But that's just something observant because I know the school. It really looks awful. And the other thing is the construction plan. I know the site very well, and you had a picture of the road, of the entrances. They are extremely narrow. So this construction plan has to be really first class, because otherwise it's going to cause lots of problems. So have we got that tightened up in the report?
Yeah, there is. We have looked at exactly what you're saying there. Yeah, we are certainly mindful that there does need to be quite a strict construction management plan when considering other applications which have come before this committee. So yeah, we will certainly be ensuring that we have a correct phasing plan, which we do have at the moment, construction logistics plan, and part of that will fall into the application which is being presented next as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think those are all my questions, so call me a NIMBY, I don't mind. Okay, can we have a show of hands for those? We've been proposed and seconded. Can we have a show of hands, those in favour of this application, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. Now we'll go on to item 10, which is where the poor students are going to go while all this lovely work is going to be done.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'd just like to flag that there's an addendum for this item as there's been minor changes to conditions. So item 10 again relates to Rosedale College and Wood End Green Road. The application seeks permission for the construction of a temporary teaching unit for a period of 18 to 24 months to provide teaching accommodation whilst the wider redevelopment of the site takes place. Here is a location plan of the site. As you can see, it's on the south side of Wood End Green Road. The top left-hand corner or north-west of the site is where the new building would be located. In terms of constraints, as mentioned in item 9, there is no constraints to the development site. Here is an existing site plan showing building EFAE, which is the temporary building. This building will be repurposed during the construction of the wider development of the site, and students decanted from building EFAB would be going into this building as well as the new teaching block. Just in this location here where the red line is an existing historic Muga. Just to the south of the site is playing field, and as you can see on the eastern end of this image there are some parking spaces which already exist in the area. Here is a proposed plan. As you can see, the new teaching block would be just south of EFAE. The historic Muga would be used as a temporary car park providing 46 parking spaces. The existing parking area would be marked out to provide additional car parking spaces, and where the building is located it would be taking up a small section of playing field temporarily. As mentioned, this is a temporary permission, would be for 18 to 24 months, and it would allow for the ongoing operation of the school during the construction works which were mentioned in item 9. Here we have the proposed ground floor plan for the temporary school block, and here we have the first floor plan for the temporary school block. This plan show that there would be educational space as well as staff rooms, toilet facilities within the building. Here is the proposed ramps and step plan. This shows that the building will provide access for all. Here are the proposed elevation plans for the temporary school block. The building, like I said, is temporary and would be removed after the mentioned period of time. This is where the building would be sited, where my mouse is at the moment, and as I mentioned previously, building EFAE would be repurposed. This is building EFAE as it stands, the temporary block. This is the historic Muga, which will be used as a car park during the construction phase. Here is the additional car parking which already exists at the site, and this will simply be marked out to provide additional car parking. And for a temporary basis, this is what the site would look like. So as you can see, we've got the car parking area to the northwest. We have the additional parking just to the east of that. The building to the south of EFAE would be the new block, and sports facilities would remain on the site during construction. As mentioned previously, this is the final site plan. So all of those temporary buildings would be removed. That's EFAE and the new temporary block, as well as EFAB, and would be replaced with sports pitches. So to conclude, for the benefits outlined in item 9, associated with a wider redevelopment of the site, the development is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hayden. Okay, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question on this. What protections have we got that the building will actually be demolished? Just mindful that there's a temporary building on site now that should have gone 10 years ago. What happens in 24 months if, for whatever reason, the rest of the construction on the previous application doesn't go ahead?
The reason why I'm smiling because this issue has probably caused us both us and the applicant and probably the planning agents quite a bit of grief throughout both the pre-app process and also the application process. So yes, there was a previous condition placed on the temporary consent for the temporary school, which was in the northeastern section of the site. That condition, I think it was condition 13 or 14 of that planning consent, required them to remove the building and restore the land. Now, how that has affected this application coming forward is there is a minor policy conflict in terms of the provision of new teaching space, in as much as there is a reduction. That reduction has actually been caused largely by the retention of that building. After quite lengthy conversations with the applicant, we have secured a condition within the permission which will either see the new development come forward, or in the event that that is not built out, the restoration of that land once the building has ceased. So we've got a condition on the application which provides a limited time frame for the use of that building. If and when that use comes to an end, and it will have to come to an end post the date in the decision notice, that land has to be restored back to its original use, which was as a sports pitch, and we will be ensuring that does happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. You want to?
Thank you for that, Chris. Yeah, I'm happy to propose that we move officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to second the proposal.
Thank you. So I've been posed and seconded. I have again a question. Can you go to the picture with the tree? There's on here. Well, you can see the cladding. What I made a remark about before. There's the tree there, just on the corner. You can just see the branches there. That is going to be protected because it's a lovely. I think it's an oak. Might be not, but it's a very big tree. And I know that you're saying that we're going to put parking on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. But that's just going to be on the existing hard surface. You're not adding a hard surface, are we? Hayden?
You're correct, Chair. There is no additional hard surfacing. It would be the existing Muga, which is hard surfaced, which should be used for car parking. So no, there wouldn't be any additional hard surfacing around those trees.
Thank you. And can you just also make sure that the T is protected on construction? When you do your construction plan?
Yeah.
Because when they're putting those porta cabins in, they just swing them around like, they won't care. So
yeah, no problem. We can make sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're proposing seconded. All those in favour of this application, please show of hands. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. We go now to item 11. I'm going to take 11 and 12 together.
Yep.
That's yours, Chris.
Yep. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we will. There's a presentation being prepared for both item 11 and 12. Effectively, they are connected or associated by the fact that one is a proposed full application and the other is the associated listed building application. You'll note on screen that the application site is the Civic Centre. It does follow on from numerous applications which have been before this planning committee in recent months. The description of development is as shown on screen, but in essence the development involves alterations to the existing covered walkway between the corporate entrance and the Middlesex suite in order to fully enclose the walkway, and in addition of a new entrance door, windows and glazed screen. As you'll see on site there, on screen there, you have the full application description followed by, the listed building application description, and also the full application description. Here we have a site location plan. The site, which is the Civic Centre, the building we're sitting in at the moment, that is highlighted in pink. This is a constraints plan. The brown, reddy sort of colour just indicates that the building that is subject to development, is a listed building. It is a Grade 2 listed building. Here is a site location plan. The extent of the site ownership is marked marked in blue, and the rest of the actual development parts of the site are highlighted in red. This is an existing level 1 plan. Here we have a proposed level 1 plan, and I think if this works I can show you just an indication of the 2 new open entrances. So at the bottom of the screen here we have effectively 2 open entrances. For anyone that is unable to try and work out where that is, I know it's quite small, that is the what was formerly the housing needs reception, and there are 2 open entrances there which would be enclosed by new entrances. This is an existing level 2 plan. Here is the proposed level 2 plan indicating the alterations to enclose the existing walkways and the provision of new doors and windows. Here is a plan of the sliding door which is proposed to replace the existing door to the front of the entrance to the Middlesex suite. If anyone has tried to enter that Middlesex suite through that door, they will know that it is not very accessible, particularly for people that are have walking difficulties or need to access it via a wheelchair. Here is an elevation of the front entrance doors at ground floor level. So in the right hand corner here, this is where the housing needs reception is. These are the 2 open elements that would be enclosed by these 2 new sets of doors. Here we just have a section and a elevation of the glazed screens. These are the window opening details. So as you come up the spiral stairs, which we'll show you in a moment, and walk along the gangway towards the Middlesex suite, there are these 2 open elements that will be enclosed by new windows. Here is an image of the existing open areas which are to be enclosed through the spiral stairs. Aluminium frame windows are proposed to be installed around this spiral staircase. And this goes from level 1, which we spoke about earlier, all the way up to level 2, which is where the entrance to the Middlesex suite is. Here is just an image of a new glazed internal partition, which is to replace the glazed partition which is on the right hand side of your screen. Here we have a bird's eye view plan. So in terms of the assessment of the application, the proposal would involve alterations to a Grade 2 listed building. As such, the applicant must demonstrate that the development would not cause harm to the historic fabric of the heritage asset, or where harm is identified, significant public benefits are evidenced. As indicated in the committee report, the development would lead to less than substantial harm at the lower end of the spectrum. However, in this case, the development would result in improved access for residents to public services. It is clear from the plans and the photos that the existing entrances alone do not provide adequate levels of accessibility, which this application would address. It is considered that the applicant has demonstrated reasonable public benefits which outweigh the less than substantial harm identified. The applications have been reviewed by both the Council's heritage officers and accessibility officers, both who have raised no objection. As such, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Well done. Anybody? Yeah, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. I thought this struck the right balance between protecting a heritage asset and listed building and moving forward into more modern times and improving accessibility. So I'm happy to propose that we go with officer's recommendation for approval.
And I'll take you for both proposals, is that okay?
Yes.
Councillor Tudor, you indicate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would like to second the proposal.
Thank you very much. So I'm proposed and second. Any more questions? No? Can you show of hands those in favour of this application? Councillor West, are you putting your hand up or are you abstaining? You're abstaining. Okay, on what grounds are you abstaining? That's irrelevant to this application. This is an application itself. Yeah, can you put your mic on?
Sorry, I apologise.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Okay, fine. So that's unanimous. Okay, and that's for both applications. Is that agreed? Great, fantastic. There we go. So we go to item 13. Hayden, go on, quick. You meant to. I don't know why you went all the way to the subs bench. You could have just stayed on the flanks there.
Okay, so item 13 relates to Ruislip Court, Riley Close. The application seeks planning permission for the installation of 3 household refuse areas, including timber fence enclosures with gates, changes to the path and drop curb, following the removal of the existing brick-walled refuse areas. Here is a location plan of the site. As you can see, Site A is located just off of West End Road. Site B and C are located off of Willow Gardens. Here is a constraints plan for the site. As you can see from the plan, there are no notable constraints. In terms of an existing site plan, this is the existing route from West End Road to the existing Site A bin store area. These are the bin store areas for Site A at present. The proposal is to widen the existing pathway leading to the bin stores, and as you can see at the bottom of the drawing, the new timber bin stores would be installed. A new drop curb would also be installed at the road in order to help with moving bins on and off of the bin collection point area. This is Site B as it stands, which is also off of Willow Gardens Road. As you can see, there's an existing collection point and a path which leads to the bin store. Here is Site B's bin store. As you can see, the plan is to extend the footpath from from the road, Willows Gardens, through the site to the bin enclosure. The bin enclosures would be similar to Site A's. They would be finished in timber and would be 1.8 metres high approximately. This is the existing Site C bin enclosure, which is off of Willows Garden. The bin enclosure would also be replaced with a similar bin enclosure to A and B. Here's a bird's eye view plan of the site. This is the path from West End Road going through the site to the existing location of Site A's bin store. That is Site A's bin store, and that's where the new bin store would be. This is Site B, and this is a view from Willows Garden, where the new path would lead to Site B's bin store. That's the existing collection point, which is going to be slightly reduced in terms of its width to enable the path through to the bin store. This green lawned area is where the new path would be, which would lead to bin store B. This is bin store B as it stands, and as mentioned in the plans, this would be replaced by a 1.8 metre high timber enclosed bin store. This is Site C at present, and this is the view from Willows Garden. The bin store as it stands, as you can see, is made of brick. It's in a poor state of repair and it needs replacing. The new timber bin store would be in that location. For the reasons outlined in the committee report, we would recommend that the application be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hayden. Who's going to take us away with this rubbish? Sorry. Bad joke. Councillor Bennett.
So there was only one question I had. It probably is irrelevant. As somebody who lives in a flat, I know that when people, when they go to take their rubbish to the bin, often they get halfway and lose interest. It does seem like quite a walk, but I guess that they're in situ in those current locations now, so it must be working.
Well, I think this will be a much improvement, because one of my questions was it vermin proof, but then when I saw the drawings, the pictures, I realised there wasn't really a point of asking if anything's going to be better than what it is at the moment. So yes, so that would be things. So
I am happy to propose.
Right, Councillor Singh.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. So we're proposed and seconded. Can I have a show of hands? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much for this evening. That's all of the applications done. Thank you, officers. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for whoever's watching. Not very many, 44. Anyway, good night.